Everything you say sounds reasonable, but there's also a reasonable explanation for the opposite.
Don't give me that. Not another word of that. There is a bad man out there.
Andy Garcia plays a big city cop who moves to a small town but can't leave his intensity behind. And Jennifer 8, a thriller that's one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, including an action-adventure starring Wesley Snipes and also Disney's animated Aladdin. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Jennifer 8, and this is a mixed bag as a thriller containing some very good things and some bad things. First, on the good side, it's a lot more complicated than most films about serial killers. Unfortunately, only movie critics end up saying sentences like that. We've seen them all. Andy Garcia plays an L.A. cop relocated to Northern California who becomes convinced that a serial killer is behind a bunch of murders of blind women. Other cops in town disagree.
Who do you think it was? You think it was him?
That is a very stupid question.
Well, I'm asking it.
How the hell do I know who? Some jerk or some peeping Tom? Definitely not him. This guy's in the trade. He ain't gonna stand there and look at her ass. If he's in the room with her, she's dead!
The potential next victim is a beautiful blind woman, of course, someone that Andy Garcia will fall in love with, someone the film will treat as a helpless sex object. Uma Thurman plays the killer's target.
Why does he want to kill me?
Because he thinks you're a witness.
During the course of the convoluted story, Andy Garcia himself falls under suspicion as being a killer of his own partner, and it is a creepy FBI agent, played by John Malkovich, who interrogates him.
Now you realize you shot your partner. Oh, Susanna, how am I going to get out of this one? I know. The serial killer shot him.
John Malkovich is very good there, but I thought that Andy Garcia overacted through large chunks of the movie, just screaming too much. And then, of course, the movie comes down to a guessing game and also a motive guessing game. Now, there's no way anyone is going to guess the motive of the killer in the film, so the ending of the film really felt tacked on. I enjoyed the plot twists and turns of Jennifer 8, and it's really stylishly photographed by Conrad Hall, but there was just too much I didn't like for me to give it thumbs up.
I think actually you liked it better than I did. I thought it was a thoroughly confusing movie, and needlessly so, and it seemed to be all over the map with its investigation at the end. You know, when he kills the partner is also his brother-in-law, so he really, you know, the fact that the other police would think that he would do this, it totally lacked any credibility for me. And another problem was the treatment of blind people in this movie. I mean, the blind people in this movie basically are defined as using talking alarm clocks and always getting rattled and weeping when they're at a party and they don't know which room they're in. The blind people that I know are nothing at all like that, and the movie really exploits them for a lot of cheap gags.
It exploits the woman. I mean,
yes.
In other words, let's face it, in movies, the women being attacked are typically beautiful. So you have a denigrating thing of the helpless victim, the beautiful victim. To add on the blind quality almost makes you feel sadistic as you watch.
And to take her and to present her in a way where she has no competence or independence of her own.
At the same time, I thought the story was convoluted, and I enjoyed the extra twists and turns in the picture, but a mixed review.
Okay, next movie is The Lover, which is either a deep meditation on eroticism between strangers or a glossy softcore porn film, depending on your state of mind at the time, and I'm afraid that my mind was not very elevated when I saw the film. The story is based on an autobiographical novel by the celebrated French writer Marguerite Duras about a love affair in the 1920s in French Indochina between a young French girl and a Chinese man some 15 years her senior. They meet on a ferry boat and something clicks between them.
I like your hat. It's original. A man's hat on a young girl. And you're pretty. You can do anything you like.
Before long, they're lovers, meeting in an anonymous room in a neutral section of town.
There have been some complaints from families. They say I'm a slut. who goes to the shady part of town to have her body fondled by a Chinaman.
It's nothing.
It's true. It's nothing.
The movie is very frank in its sexual scenes, as sensuous as any film since Emmanuel, as the lovers become obsessed with their physical relationship. Of course, they can't proclaim their love because of the taboos in both their communities about interracial love. The man, played by Tony Leone, explains that his marital future has all been mapped out for him. The young woman, Jane March, doesn't really seem to care.
Oh, Lord, it's for the best then. Chinese? I don't like the Chinese very much.
The Lover is visually a very beautiful film, shot in Vietnam with languorous, seductive locations. It reminded me, as I said, of Emmanuel, which is still one of the best films devoted to eroticism. But The Lover wants to be more than a turn-on, and I don't think it succeeds. I guess maybe there's something French and uncompromising about a relationship that insists on existing only on one level, the physical level, but by the end of the movie I felt claustrophobic because the story had explored such a small part of these two characters.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction, which is I thought that the erotic scene so dominated the film that there was nothing else to it, really. And I didn't feel that they were risking that much. You know, the film that people might think of, in addition to Emmanuel, is Last Tango in Paris, where lovers get alone in a room.
That's a much better film.
Well, of course it is, and I'm going to explain why. There is, again, the same desire to be alone in the room and create your own world there. But there you felt that the Brando character, you knew him, first of all, and he was really at risk, really at risk, and really at the end of his rope. And there was some desperation. Here you really don't understand the motivations of the characters. They really are in a softcore film.
At the end of the film, the young girl is going to go back to France as he's on the boat, and as it pulls out from the dock, she can see her Chinese lover pull up in his limousine and get out and stand and look at the boat leaving. And at that moment, which is the climax of the entire film, I didn't know what either one of those characters was thinking about the other one, and I don't think that they knew either. So
no, I don't think it's on the page.
Probably didn't matter.
It's not on the page in the script of the film. Coming up next, the new Disney animated film Aladdin, the studio's first since Beauty and the Beast.
And what better way to make your grand entrance on the streets of Agrabah than riding your very own brand new camel?
Watch out, they spit.
Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be? Let me take your order, jot it down. You ain't never had a friend like me.
That's Robin Williams, of course, as the voice and inspiration of the genie in the bottle in Aladdin, the new Disney animated extravaganza, and he's the real star of the movie. It's an extraordinary performance, the perfect melding, if you think about it, of a talent and an art form. Robin Williams really is an animated character in his ability to constantly change shape and character. He's the main reason for adults to see Aladdin. In fact, if the film were called Genie, I think it would be more truthful labeling. In the film, a princess is reminded by her father, the Sultan, that she must marry a prince within 3 days.
I hate being forced into this. If I do marry, I want it to be for love.
Meanwhile, a young man named Aladdin dreams of marrying the princess. He and his pet monkey have stumbled upon a magic lamp with almost disastrous results.
No!
You have touched the forbidden treasures. Now you shall never again see the light of day.
Once the lamp is rubbed at the movie's 40-minute mark, Aladdin becomes a great entertainment. Here's Robin.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck. Hang on a second. Whoa! Wow, does it feel good to be out of there? I'm telling you, nice to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, where are you from? What's your name?
Aladdin.
Aladdin. Hello, Aladdin. Nice to have you on the show. Can we call you Al, or maybe just Din? Or how about Laddie? Sounds like, here, boy. Come on, Laddie.
The film's bad guy is pretty good. Jafar is the Sultan's evil counselor, a would-be prince who himself wants to marry the princess. For now, he's stuck with a wisecracking parrot with a funny voice by comic Gilbert Gottfried.
Marry the shrew. I become the Sultan. The idea has merit.
Yes, merit, yes! And then we drop Papa-in-law and the little woman off a cliff. Yeah!
How does Aladdin rank with Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid? Not quite as good. The story is rougher, more oriented toward boys than girls. The songs are not classics. Lyricist Howard Ashman, who worked on all 3 films, died during the production. But on the positive side, Aladdin also takes greater risks. It isn't just built for kids. It does stretch the animated form, and I do recommend it highly. And I think that Robin Williams does deserve to become the first voice to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I didn't think it was up to the 2 previous films from Disney, but I did think it was good, and I do think that Robin Williams is terrific here.
Yes.
I wonder how much input he actually had in the animation process, because some of his bits of business and some of the moments when he imitates everyone from Ed Sullivan to Arsenio Hall are really funny.
Very funny.
And it's almost as if Williams must have been working at the script level with these people in order to develop this comic stuff.
Yeah.
So he's really good, but the movie is not quite up there with Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast.
Well, I think it's because the boy is kind of lackluster, and you don't feel his drive is important.
Yeah.
And they kind of got split in terms of who's going to be the lead, the boy or the girl, and that doesn't hold together.
Yeah.
And then the problem is, who can compete with Robin Williams? He just blows everyone out of the water.
Walks away with the movie. When we come back, Wesley Snipes is Passenger 57, fighting a terrorist who captures an airplane.
Gotta go.
Wesley Snipes is an anti-terrorist expert who happens to be on board when an infamous hijacker being carried as a prisoner suddenly seizes control of a transcontinental flight in Passenger 57, a completely implausible but nevertheless surprisingly entertaining new thriller. The terrorist is played by Bruce Payne as a coldly intellectual man without a heart who has a meticulous game plan but finds himself negotiating with Snipes when something goes wrong.
Charlie, you ever play roulette?
On occasion.
Well, let me give you a word of advice. Always bet on black.
The movie puts Snipes into a lot of unlikely positions, including this one, where he turns up back on board the plane as it's taking off again. How did he get there? Well, he jumped from a squad car onto the landing gear. A better question might be, what's he going to do now?
Why have you turned this plane?
We were told to head back.
By whom?
By me. What a waste.
Passenger 57 belongs to the same genre as Die Hard 2 and Under Siege. It's about a hero and his girl sidekick battling an international terrorist for the lives of innocent human beings. It's not as good as those movies, and it is filled with holes big enough to fly a DC-10 through, but I must tell you that I enjoyed it. I liked its high energy level and the obvious enjoyment Snipes and the rest of the cast had with their melodramatic roles, and I even liked the way the flight attendants rose to the challenge of a bloody hijacking by passing out hot towels to everyone.
Well, all right, you're saying on the camp level it might be
yes,
fun.
I think, yeah.
And I thought that the stuff on the plane, oddly enough, was fun in that way, but then the picture takes a detour to a carnival, and I thought the movie really fell apart.
Now listen, wait a minute, Gene, I got to talk to you about that carnival. Now, the plane is on the ground.
Yeah.
And the terrorist creates a diversion and then sneaks off the plane and runs across the field to the carnival, which is conveniently next door.
Right.
The police, of course, have not surrounded the plane, and nobody notices that the terrorist goes there.
Right.
Meanwhile, Wesley Snipes is inside the control tower, arrested by the police, but he knocks out 2 of them, fights free, steals a motorcycle, and races directly to the carnival. Now, how did he know the terrorist was there?
I have no
My
idea.
answer is he's seen other movies. He knows that you always go to the carnival because then you can have the shootout on the merry-go-round.
That's where I thought the film really fell apart, and that's why I don't give it a positive review. At the camp level, some of the stuff on the plane is fun, but I don't think I would recommend the film. Coming up next, a movie about teenagers coming to grips with school, world events, and flirting.
Look out to stand away photos.
We keep an eye on each other. So we hear.
Our next film is called Flirting, and remember that name, Flirting, because it is something special, a beautiful offbeat love story set in a couple of boarding schools in Australia, an interracial love story between a bright, white, nerdy teenage boy and a bright, good-hearted African girl. They attend brother and sister boarding schools across the lake from one another, and the kids fall for each other at a school debate.
My colleagues have quoted many ancient poets and philosophers to support our case that intellectual pursuits are the highest form of human endeavor. But most contemporary artists seem more interested in bodily functions. For example, I don't want you to toast my bread. I don't want you to make my bed. I don't want your money too. I just want to make love to you.
Sandy Newton is the girl from Uganda, and Noah Taylor is the working-class boy. Their parents meet at a school concert as we see the wide world they represent. No simple caricatures of parents here, just decent people.
The furthest I've been is New Guinea.
My husband fought there during the war. He never talks about it, though.
I'm not surprised. It must be hard for anyone else to understand how tough it was.
That's true.
Also appearing in the film is one big star, Nicole Kidman, Mrs. Tom Cruise to some people, as a stuck-up pretty girl who would like to enforce the school's rule about no fraternizing with the opposite sex, but actually, she admires the African girl's daring free spirit.
Here's to risks.
Flirting is nothing less than one of the best films I've seen this year, a film that deals honestly and humorously with the most difficult age of adolescence. It argues for courage, for intellectual as well as emotional honesty at a time when kids are conforming, really. The two young leads are perfect. In fact, everyone involved with Flirting, especially writer-director John Deegan, should be proud of themselves. I love this movie.
I love this movie, too. It's also going to go on my list of one of the best films of the year.
Yeah,
this
good.
is a wonderful,
Yes, it is.
magical, marvelous film. And every once in a while, you see a movie where you kind of forget it's a movie, and you lean forward a little bit in your seat, and you really, really care about what's going to happen to those people on the screen. You like them, you believe them, you understand them, you sympathize with them. I found this movie almost like a repudiation of most of the other movies I've seen recently because it was just so much better.
Well, the thing where I relate to what you just said is that I did think, you know, I could watch these characters' lives in another whole movie right now. I wanted to see more of what's going to happen to them. The film has a life goes on ending, and I wanted to know where their lives goes on. You know, here's another thing. I think it would be a great film for teenage kids to see. Now, I know that some people say, oh, you mean they're going to have premarital sex involved?
Oh, but it's handled in such a tasteful way. It's not offensive at all. And also, what it understands that I think teenage kids might identify with is the very best of those years.
Yes.
When you are idealistic, and when you idealize another person, and when together you're thinking not about things like sex, but things like truth or beauty or loyalty or really loving somebody else in a way that I think adolescents do with more purity and more strength maybe than they'll ever do again.
Well, it has all of those beautiful things in it, and I think it does argue for courage, for acting the way you think is the right way to act, and it's a beautiful film on that score. When we come back, this week's video recommendation and a salute to a man whose life spanned all of movie history.
Fiddling, huh?
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week, brought to you this week by Orville Redenbacher Popcorn. Do one thing and do it better than anyone.
The legendary Hal Roach died earlier this week at the age of 100, and a century of film history died with him. This was a producer who was involved with the movies almost from the beginning, first as the producer of silent comedies starring Harold Lloyd and others, and then, in the early days of sound, as the producer of many of the Laurel and Hardy classics. A lot of the best of those are available on video, and in memory of Hal Roach, I'd like to recommend one as our video pick this week. Way Out West, which Laurel and Hardy made in 1937, is a terrific film. Here they are doing their soft shoe vaudeville routine for the cameras. And they are really wonderful there. I looked at it last night. I enjoyed Laurel and Hardy all over again. Hal Roach made a lot of other kinds of movies, including Topper in 1937 and the original screen version of Mice and Men in 1939. And he was active and interested in the movies right up until the moment of his death this week. I chatted with him at a luncheon a few days before this year's Academy Awards, and I was amazed that a man of 100 could still be so sharp and so funny. Maybe he learned his timing from all of those great silent comedies that he made. Now let's take a look at the movies we reviewed this week. 2 thumbs down for Jennifer 8, with Andy Garcia chasing a serial killer through a confusing plot. 2 more thumbs down for The Lover, which never really develops beyond its erotic content. 2 thumbs up for Aladdin, the new animated musical with terrific work by Robin Williams. A split decision on Passenger 57, which I liked in spite of, or maybe because of, its cheerful implausibility. Gene didn't buy it. And finally, 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for Flirting, a wonderful, inspired film by John Deegan about young love. We both think it's one of the year's best, and that's the movie that people should really search out for. Every year there are just a few movies that come along that are just in a category by themselves, and Flirting is one of those.
And I also think that Robin Williams' performance is in a category by itself.
Yes, it is.
This is an amazing piece of entertainment that adults will like probably and get a whole lot more than their kids. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more holiday movies, including Bram Stoker's Dracula, with Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins sheltering Winona Ryder from vampire Gary Oldman in the new film by Francis Ford Coppola. And Traces of Red, with Detective James Belushi trying to stay alive after testifying against the mob. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
For the man who's good at making a woman feel great, Pierre Cardin, Man's Cologne. It's America's favorite jelly bean, Jelly Belly, now appearing at theaters and video stores with good taste. Jelly Belly beans. Try them. You'll love them. St. Ives Swiss Formula Collagen Elastin Lotion. St. Ives Swiss Formula soothes and softens dry skin instantly, naturally. St. Ives Swiss Formula. Lady Stetson, the spirit of the West, the power of a woman, the fragrance that captures it all. Lady Stetson, it's how the West was won.